Australopithecus sediba has been a completely life-changing experience from the moment it was discovered in 2008. Within a matter of weeks, I realized that I was encountering something that was not the typical fragments or little tiny pieces of early humans that people like me have an expectation of spending their lives looking for. I was dealing with skeletons. And then shortly thereafter that, I realized I was dealing not with one skeleton, but multiple skeletons. And very shortly, I realized that we had stumbled onto something absolutely extraordinary. Objects that you just don't find in our field. Life-changing objects. Objects that are going to change the way humans understand their own origins. That's a very special moment where you see that we, for the first time, had enough skeletons. Literally, you could see these individuals. You could see every part of their body. You could see them beginning at different ages. And as that sort of began to absorb, I realized we also needed to change the way we were doing things. It was too much. You don't find things like this in my field. And so the way of working where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scientists work on this had to be changed. And so I began to build a team, a global team of first dozens of people and then more than 100 people. And it's been a great journey. I mean, I never imagined we'd be able to make the kind of scientific impact. 15 papers in Science, 1 in Nature, dozens of other papers in refereed journals, and just this extraordinary process of understanding a creature that lived in the past that may have a direct relationship, not only biologically to living humans, but have relationship to why we're the way we are. The fact that my then 9-year-old son Matthew found the first remains of Australopithecus sediba, that first fossil, that little clavicle, was one of the greatest moments of my life. I had discovered the sites 2 weeks before. First visit back, we were a minute and a half into being there, and I said, go find fossils. And off he runs. Moments later, he said, Dad, I found a fossil. And I almost didn't go. And I knew what he'd found. I knew he'd found an antelope fossil. We find these antelopes all the time. 250,000 antelope fragments for every piece of one of these early human ancestors. He's my 9-year-old son, and you want to encourage fossil hunting, right? So I walked towards him, 5 meters away. I knew his and my life were going to change forever, because sitting in the side of this little rock he'd found was a clavicle, a little piece of the shoulder girdle, the very bone I'd done my PhD on here at Fitz, sitting in the side of this rock. One of the rarest bones in the body that we find, and there it was. Extraordinary moment. Extraordinary moment. We're a field, traditionally, of scraps. These early human fossils, these ancestors from across the continent of Africa, because that's where our story takes place, are perhaps the rarest sought-after objects on the planet. You have a far better chance of finding giant diamonds bigger than the Hope Diamond than you do of finding even little tiny pieces of these ancestors. And so when we're dealing with skeletons of this quality, in extraordinary context, they truly almost become, well, they probably are, arc objects. Arc objects are simply this. Imagine in 10,000 years that humanity has destroyed the viability of this planet. We can no longer live on this blue marble because of the terrible things that we do to it. And we have to leave, perhaps Mars or somewhere else we occupy, and we build a giant spaceship. And we take a group of people who are going to seed humans into this next place. What are those humans going to take with them? They're going to take with them the objects that best represent this planet and the history of humankind on this planet, good or bad. And they'll take the obvious things, right? They'll take the genome of every living organism on this planet, banks of them. They'll take the things that we all think of instantly. Tutankhamun's sarcophagi, the Mona Lisa perhaps, the Bible, the Quran, all the things that we identify as fundamental to being humanity and our adventure on this planet. And they'll take these fossils too, because they're part of our history and part of the fundamental, unique history of the evolution of human beings on this planet, arc objects.